Your air fryer does more than chips and frozen nuggets. It can crack pork belly skin, dehydrate fresh ginger into seasoning powder, render clean cooking fat without covering your stovetop in splatter. Same machine, completely different use. The difference is knowing how to control it. Most people set a temperature, press start, and hope. Change the heat, moisture, and airflow, and the same machine can crisp, char, roast, render, dehydrate, and rescue leftovers. 31 Chinese air fryer tricks. Faster cooking, better results. Techniques most people never think to try. Stick around. Number 1 is the rule behind every trick on this list. Let's get into it. Number 31. Reviving leftover rice with a crispy bottom. Microwaved rice goes gluey. Every grain steams in its own trapped moisture until the texture turns to paste. Spread cold rice thin in the basket instead, 4 to 5 minutes at 200 degrees C, and the surface dries out fast while the inside stays soft. That's the same crispy bottom effect you get from a hot wok, without the wok, and without standing over a stove, stirring it constantly. Day-old rice works better than fresh here because it's already lost some surface moisture in the fridge overnight. A single layer is non-negotiable for this one because a pile of rice just steams itself the same way the microwave did. And if reviving rice is this simple, wait until you see what happens to a spring roll that's been sitting in the fridge since yesterday. Number 30. Reviving soggy leftover spring rolls. Reheated spring rolls in a microwave turn to mush. The oil inside them remelts, the wrapper goes soft, and the crunch is gone for good. 4 minutes at 190 degrees C fixes this completely. The circulating air pulls that trapped moisture back out through the wrapper, and the shell re-crisps without you adding a single extra drop of oil. This works on egg rolls, samosas, and pretty much anything with a fried, layered wrapper that's gone soft in the fridge. Reheating from the fridge rather than the freezer keeps the timing consistent, since frozen leftovers need a couple of extra minutes to catch up. If this kind of practical fix is exactly what you came here for, now's the time to subscribe. This channel exists to test tricks properly before we tell you they work. And there are 2 more videos already planned on exactly this topic. One on air fryer desserts and one on air fryer breakfasts. Now, reheating leftovers is one thing, but what happens when the food is still frozen solid and you haven't got a single minute to spare? Number 29. Air frying dumplings straight from frozen. Pot stickers usually need 2 steps. Pan fry the base, then steam with a lid to cook the filling through. An air fryer skips the second step entirely. There's no lid to manage, no steam to time carefully, just one basket and one timer. Space them apart rather than letting them touch, or the sides that press together stay pale instead of browning. Dumplings sorted. But here's the one that surprises people most, because it involves something you probably assumed you still needed a deep fryer for. Number 28. Puffing raw prawn crackers. Without deep frying, raw prawn crackers need scorching oil to puff properly, and that oil splatters everywhere. 2 minutes at 160 degrees with a light oil spray gets the same puff. The moisture inside each chip flashes to steam and expands the starch, exactly like deep frying does, just without the pan of hot oil. Watch them closely near the end, because they go from puffed to burnt within seconds of each other. A single overcooked batch teaches you that lesson fast, so start checking at the 90-second mark the first time you try it. That trick takes 90 seconds. The next one takes 3 minutes and rescues something most people throw straight in the bin. Number 27. Refreshing stale peanuts or sesame seeds. Stale nuts lose their crunch and their aroma fades with it. 3 minutes at 160 degrees C brings both straight back. The gentle heat drives off the moisture that softened them and reactivates the oils that carry their flavor. A quick shake halfway through keeps every piece toasting at the same rate. This trick alone has saved more forgotten cupboard bags of peanuts than any storage container ever will. And since the basket is already warm from those peanuts, here's what to do next before it cools down. Number 26. Toasting whole spices. Before grinding, a dry pan toasts spices unevenly, and it's easy to scorch one side before you notice. Star anise, Sichuan peppercorn, and cinnamon bark all toast evenly at 150 degrees for 90 seconds in a single layer. Grind them straight after, while they're still warm, for a noticeably stronger aroma than spices toasted cold. The warmth releases the oils faster, so the smell hits you the second the grinder lid comes off. Toasted spice keeps its punch for weeks in a sealed jar, so it's worth doing a bigger batch while the basket's already warm. Better spice from a warmer grind. Now here's a trick that turns something you'd normally discard into a snack worth serving to guests. Number 25. Turning leftover wonton wrappers into chips. Cut them into triangles, spray lightly with oil, and give them 3 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius. You get a genuinely crisp cracker with almost no waste and no deep fry oil to deal with afterward. Sprinkle with sesame seeds before they go in for extra crunch on top. Serve them next to a bowl of dip instead of buying a bag of crackers at the shop. It's genuinely one of the few zero-waste tricks on this entire list, since it's built entirely from something most people just throw away. Zero waste and done in 3 minutes. Now here's one that cuts a 40-minute oven job down to under 20. Number 24. Roasting a whole garlic bulb fast. An oven takes 40 minutes to soften a garlic bulb into that sweet, spreadable paste. Slice the top off, drizzle with oil, wrap loosely in foil, and 18 minutes at 190 degrees C gets you there instead. Squeeze the cloves straight into a stir-fry at the end for a rounder, sweeter garlic flavor than raw garlic gives you. It also works stirred into a dipping sauce, mashed with a little soy and vinegar. Keep a roasted bulb in the fridge and you'll reach for it constantly once you realize how easy it is. A whole bulb roasted this way lasts about 5 days, sealed in the fridge, ready to squeeze into whatever you're cooking that evening. Roasted garlic in 18 minutes. Now here's the trick that saves a braise from going completely soft in all the wrong places. Number 23. Crisping tofu puffs. Before they go into a braise, added straight into a simmering sauce, tofu puffs turn soggy fast. 4 minutes at 200 degrees first gives them a firmer shell. That shell holds up once they hit the liquid, so they keep their bite instead of dissolving into the sauce around them. Do this the moment before they go into the pot, not hours ahead, or the shell softens again while it waits. Restaurants do this same step in hot oil behind the counter. You're just doing it without the fryer. And since we're on tofu, here's how to get a genuinely crisp shell on a completely different cut of it without a single drop of frying oil. Number 22. Cornstarch-coated crispy tofu without deep frying. Press the tofu, coat it in cornstarch, and give it 12 minutes at 200 degrees C, flipping once at the halfway point. The starch dries and crisps in the dry heat the same way it would in oil, just without the oil. Firm or extra firm tofu holds together far better here than anything softer. Silken tofu will simply fall apart in the basket, so save it for a soup instead. Crispy tofu without a drop of oil. Now here's the one that rescues the forgotten packet at the back of every cupboard. Number 21. Reviving stale rice crackers. 3 minutes at 160 degrees and the crunch is back, the same trick as the peanuts, applied to anything starchy that's gone soft in the cupboard. Shrimp chips, seaweed crackers, and even stale crisps all respond to the same short blast. It's genuinely one of the most useful tricks on this entire list, simply because it applies to almost anything dry that's absorbed moisture from the air. Think of it as a reset button for texture, not a fix for taste, since it only works while the flavor itself is still intact. Crackers restored in 3 minutes. Now, here's a hands-off snack that comes out better in the basket than it ever did in a pan. Number 20. Roasting 5-spice edamame. As a hands-off snack, toss frozen edamame pods with oil and 5-spice powder, then 12 minutes at 200 degrees, shaking the basket once halfway. You get an even, blistered char on every pod without standing over a pan, stirring constantly. Eat them straight from the pod, the same way you would at a dim sum table. There's no oil to drain and no pan to soak afterward, just the basket and a bowl for the empty shells. A 5-spice blend works well here, but chili oil or plain sea salt do the exact same job if that's what's already in your cupboard. If this is useful to you, tap that like button now. It genuinely helps this video reach more people who've been using their air fryer for about 10% of what it can actually do. And there's a lot more still to come in this list, including the trick that ties this entire video together. None of the remaining 11 tricks are things you'd guess an air fryer could do just by looking at the machine sitting on your counter. Speaking of things you'd never guess, here's what happens to a scallion pancake that the microwave destroyed last night. Number 19. Restoring a scallion pancake's layers on reheat. A microwaved scallion pancake goes rubbery. And the layers fuse together. 4 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius separates the layers again as the trapped steam between them escapes, and the outside re-crisps at the same time. This works just as well on a homemade pancake as it does on a store-bought frozen one. Skip the microwave entirely for these from now on, because it's genuinely the one appliance guaranteed to ruin the layers. 10 minutes total from freezer to plate, most of it hands-off, beats standing at a pan, flipping it every 30 seconds. Layered and crisped in under 10 minutes. Now here's the one that turns a single sheet of something you barely use into a full bowl of chips. Number 18. Puffing rice paper into crispy chips. Cut rice paper into wedges, spray lightly with oil, and it puffs and crisps in 90 seconds at 190 degrees Celsius. Watch it closely. It goes from raw to burnt fast once it starts to bubble, so stay by the machine rather than walking away. Season with chili flakes or furikake the moment they come out, while the oil is still warm enough to make it stick. A single sheet of rice paper makes a surprising amount of chips once it puffs, so start with less than you think you need. 2 sheets is genuinely enough for a full bowl, since each one roughly doubles in size the moment it hits the hot air. 90 seconds to a full bowl. Now here's one that solves the problem every stovetop chestnut pan eventually creates. Number 17. Roasting chestnuts evenly. Score each shell with an X, so steam has somewhere to escape. 15 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius gets you a tender center and a shell that peels away cleanly, with no standing over a stovetop pan, shaking it constantly. Skip the score, and the shells can genuinely burst inside the basket, so don't skip that step. Let them sit for 2 minutes once they're hotter than you'd expect, and that 2-minute wait is the difference between clean peeling and burnt fingertips. Chestnuts done in 15 minutes. Now here's the trick that takes 30 seconds and changes how every bowl of rice you make tastes from here on. Number 16. Toasting nori sheets for extra crunch. 30 seconds at 150 degrees is genuinely all it takes. Any longer, and the sheet turns bitter. So watch it the entire time rather than walking away. Crumble it over rice or noodles right after for a burst of toasted seaweed flavor that a soft sheet just doesn't give you. A packet of nori sitting in a cupboard for months loses that toasted edge, and this brings it straight back in under a minute. It's the fastest single trick on this entire list, and one of the easiest to forget about simply because it takes almost no time at all. 30 seconds, and the whole bowl changes. Now here's the one that turns the part of the chicken most people discard into something worth crumbling over everything. Number 15. Rendering chicken skin into crispy cracklings. Spread trimmed chicken skin flat in a single layer, 12 minutes at 180 degrees C. The fat renders out into the base of the basket as the skin crisps above it, and cleanup is one basket, not a stovetop covered in spatter. Save the rendered fat that collects below. It's genuinely good for frying eggs or rice the next morning. Crumble the crispy skin itself over congee or noodle soup for a texture most bowls of soup are completely missing. It adds exactly the kind of crunch a soup usually can't provide on its own. Free crackling and free cooking fat from something you were about to bin. And here's the dish that benefits most from that cornstarch trick you saw 2 entries ago. Number 14. Salt and pepper tofu, or prawns with a fraction of the oil. Coat lightly in cornstarch, spray rather than submerge, and 12 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius gets a genuinely crisp shell. Toss with salt, white pepper, and chopped chili straight out of the basket while it's still hot. The heat helps the seasoning stick to the coating instead of sliding straight off. Wait even a minute too long, and the seasoning slides right off the shell instead of clinging to it. Timing this one matters more than almost any other seasoning step on the list. Seasoning locked in. Now here's the one that gives you a citrus ingredient it normally takes months to make. Number 13. Fast-drying orange peel as a quick citrus seasoning. Real aged chenpi takes months, sometimes years, of slow drying to develop its depth. This isn't that. What 25 minutes at 70 degrees gives you is a fast, genuinely useful substitute. Dried thin peel with concentrated citrus oil. Good for a braise this weekend, not a substitute for the real aged version. Keep a jar of it in the cupboard, and you'll always have a quick citrus note ready for a stew, even without 3 years of patience. Peel only the colored layer, not the white pith underneath, or the flavor turns bitter instead of bright. A vegetable peeler does this more cleanly than a knife, since it takes off a thin, even strip in one motion. 25 minutes for a citrus seasoning most people wait months to use. Now here's the one that gets you closer to wok flavor than any home oven ever will. Number 12. Getting a real charred edge on green beans. Or bok choy. This is not wok hay. A wok gets hotter and moves faster than any air fryer can, and nothing replicates that specific flavor. But high heat and a mostly dry surface will still blister and char the edges of green beans or bok choy in 10 minutes at 200 degrees, tossed once halfway in a way a regular oven struggles to match. Pat the vegetables completely dry before they go in, because any surface water steams instead of charring. A wet vegetable in a hot basket produces steam, not char, no matter how high you set the temperature. This single distinction, dry versus wet going in, decides whether the vegetable tray comes out blistered or just limp and pale. Blistered vegetables in 10 minutes. And now, here's the one vegetarian cooks have been waiting for. Number 11. Puffing bean curd skin into a crisp vegetarian roll. Layer soaked bean curd skin sheets, roll tightly, and 8 minutes at 190 degrees turns the outer layers genuinely crisp while the inside stays tender. It's a legitimately good stand-in for crispy duck skin if you're cooking vegetarian, and it holds its shape far better than trying to pan fry the same roll. Brush a little sesame oil on the outside before it goes in for a deeper, nuttier crisp on the surface. Serve it sliced on the diagonal, the same way you'd plate real crispy duck skin, and the resemblance is genuinely closer than you'd expect. Vegetarian crackling in 8 minutes. Now here's the one that rescues the real thing after it went soft overnight in the fridge. Number 10. Restoring crackling duck skin. Without drying the meat, leftover roast duck skin goes soft in the fridge overnight. 6 minutes at 200 degrees, skin facing up, brings the crackle back. The short blast re-crisps the surface fat before the heat has time to dry out the meat sitting underneath it, which is exactly what a longer reheat in an oven usually ruins. Slice it straight after resting for a minute, and the skin stays shatteringly thin instead of chewy. An oven takes twice as long to get the same result, and by then, the meat underneath has usually dried past the point of no return. 6 minutes is genuinely all this needs, so resist the urge to leave it in longer just because it looks like it could use more color. Duck skin restored in 6 minutes. Now here's why most homemade XO sauce tastes flat, and the one step that fixes it. Number 9. Toasting dried shrimp and scallops for a stronger XO sauce base. A dry pan toasts these unevenly, and the smaller pieces scorch before the larger ones are done. 3 minutes at 160 degrees in a single layer toasts everything at the same rate, which means a rounder, more consistent flavor once you chop it into the sauce. Most people skip this step entirely and go straight to chopping, which is exactly why so many homemade XO sauces taste flat compared to the jarred versions. Toasting first wakes up the concentrated umami sitting inside each dried piece before it ever hits the pan. Chop everything only once it's fully cooled, or the residual heat will keep cooking the smaller pieces past where you want them. That extra minute of patience is the difference between a rounded, toasty flavor and one that's tipped over into bitter. XO base sorted in 3 minutes. Now here's the one that gets you a genuinely crisp tempura shell without a single pot of hot oil. Number 8. Tempura-style prawns with a fraction of the oil. Dip in a cold, lightly mixed batter. Spray with oil rather than submerge. In 10 minutes at 200 degrees C gets a shell that's genuinely crisp, not soggy or pale the way an under-oiled oven attempt usually turns out. Keep the batter cold right up until the moment it hits the basket. A warm batter spreads thin and turns gummy instead of setting into that lacy, crisp shell tempura is known for. Ice-cold, sparkling water in the batter helps more than any other single ingredient because the bubbles create tiny pockets that firm up fast in the heat. Mix it only seconds before dipping, since the bubbles start flattening the moment the water sits still. Tempura shell without a fryer. Now here's the trick most people assume is impossible without a full oven roast the night before. Number 7. Real crackling pork belly skin. Without a full oven roast, score the skin, dry it thoroughly, salt it generously, and let it sit uncovered in the fridge overnight. That drying step matters more than anything else here. 25 minutes at 200 the next day, and the skin blisters into genuine crackling because there's almost no surface moisture left to fight through. An oven roast takes over an hour and heats your whole kitchen to get you there. This gets a genuinely equivalent result in a quarter of the time. On a single small tray, you can wipe clean in seconds. Skip the overnight dry and the skin will still crisp, just patchier, with softer spots wherever moisture was still sitting on the surface. Salt itself is doing real work overnight too, drawing moisture up and out of the skin while the fridge air carries it away. Genuine crackling in 25 minutes. Now here's the one that delivers restaurant-quality steamed fish without a wok, a steamer, or a single moment of watching over a stove. Number 6. Crisping a whole small fish's skin while keeping the flesh moist. Score the skin, pat it completely dry, and 12 minutes at 200 degrees C crisps the outside fast. The flesh inside stays moist because the cooking time is short enough that the heat crisps the surface before it has time to dry out the center. Pan frying a whole fish means constant splatter and turning it carefully so the skin doesn't tear. Here, you set the timer and walk away, and the skin still comes out shattering, not leathery. Stuff the cavity with a few slices of ginger and a scallion, and the aroma carries through the flesh while the outside crisps completely untouched. A whole fish under 600 grams works best here, since anything bigger needs longer than the skin can survive without overcooking. Crispy skin, moist flesh, 12 minutes. Now here's the one that gets you closer to proper char siu than any home cook expects from a machine this size. Number 5. A genuine char siu bark. Without an oven or constant basting. Marinate the pork overnight so the sugars sit right at the surface, not just inside the meat. 18 minutes at 200 degrees CC, basting once at the halfway point, and those surface sugars caramelize into a real sticky, dark bark. It's not identical to a professional roast oven's result, but it's genuinely close, with no basting every 5 minutes and no risk of the sugar burning onto an oven tray you'll be scrubbing for an hour afterward. Use honey rather than extra sugar in the final best, because it caramelizes faster and darkens without needing the extra few minutes a straight sugar glaze usually takes. Watch it closely in the last 2 minutes, since honey can tip from caramelized to burnt faster than sugar does. Char siu bark in 18 minutes. Now here's the one that turns your air fryer into something most people pay £30 to own separately. Number 4. Drying ginger and garlic into your own seasoning powder. Slice both paper thin and 40 minutes at 60 degrees Celsius. Dries them without scorching either one. Blitz once cool into a powder that's noticeably more fragrant than most jars you'd buy, because nothing sat on a shelf losing potency for months first. A low, slow setting like this is something most people never think to use their air fryer for at all. It's effectively a food dehydrator you already own, sitting on your counter under a different name. The same low setting works for drying chili flakes, mushroom slices, or citrus zest. So, once you learn this one, you've genuinely learned several, a dehydrator you already own. Now here's the one that gives you 2 useful things from one basket and nothing left to scrub. Number 3. Rendering pork fat into clean cooking fat with almost no mess. Cube pork fat trimmings, and 20 minutes at 160 degrees Celsius renders it down cleanly in the basket, with the fat collecting below and the crackling forming above it. No spitting fat across your stovetop, no pan to scrub after, and no lingering smell filling the kitchen the way rendering fat in a pan usually does. Strain and store the fat in the fridge, and you've got a genuinely useful cooking oil ready for the next stir fry. The crispy bits left behind are basically a bonus. Scatter them over greens or rice and treat them as a garnish, not a byproduct. Clean fat and free crackling in 20 minutes. Now, here's the one that makes every chicken wing you've ever cooked in an oven feel like a missed opportunity. Number 2, even all-over crackling on chicken wings without a single flip. Pat the wings completely dry first. That single step matters more than the seasoning does. 22 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius, and the circulating air crisps every side at once, top and bottom, without you flipping a single wing halfway through. A regular oven bakes the top of the wing, while the underside steams against the tray. An air fryer basket has no tray to trap steam against, which is the actual reason the skin ends up crackling on every side, not just the one facing up. Shake the basket once around the 10-minute mark just to reposition the wings, not to flip them, and you'll never need to touch them again after that. All over crackling in 22 minutes. And now here's number 1, which isn't a trick at all. Number 1. The rule that actually explains everything on this list. Every trick above comes down to the same 3 things working together every single time. Temperature decides whether you're crisping something or gently drying it out, so high heat browns fast while low heat dehydrates slowly without burning, which is the entire difference between the pork belly at number 7 and the ginger powder at number 4. A basket set too low never browns, no matter how long you leave it in there. A basket set too high burns the surface before the inside has any chance to cook through. Moisture is the enemy of crisping, which is why drying something first, whether that's pork skin overnight or a wing patted down before cooking, makes the biggest difference of any single step you can take. Water has to leave the surface before browning can even start, and every trick that told you to pat something dry was really just buying you a head start on that process. Skip that step, and you're not failing the recipe, you're just fighting physics with a paper towel you never picked up. Airflow is the part people miss most, and it's the one thing a regular oven genuinely can't compete with. Overcrowd the basket and hot air can't reach every surface, so food steams instead of crisping, the same way a packed oven tray steams itself from the inside out. Spread everything out in a single layer with space between pieces, and every side gets the same blast of dry heat the top does, which is exactly why the wings at number 2 crackle all the way around without ever being flipped. Master those 3 things: temperature, moisture, and airflow, and you can improvise almost any trick on this list yourself without needing a recipe card in front of you. Look at any recipe from a different angle and ask which of the 3 it's actually relying on. Most failed air fryer attempts trace back to getting just one of these 3 wrong, not all 3 at once. That's genuinely the whole secret, and it's the same secret behind every single item on this entire list, from the leftover rice at number 31 all the way up here. So which trick are you trying first this week? Whichever one it is, pat it dry, don't crowd the basket, and set the right temperature for what you're actually trying to do to it. Click the next video showing on the left for more of these. Until then, keep cooking.